we have tech news to
Yes, we
talk
do.
about, John. The first item up for bid,
Nice.
Jasper, the Critter Stack roadmap for the rest of 2024. What is a Critter Stack? This is new terminology to me.
Well, this is basically Jeremy Miller has been working on this for a while. This is part of his company called Jasper FX software, and they build a whole set of components, server tools, etc., server components, etc. And basically, this is a roadmap for everything that's coming around Wolverine, as well as other parts of the Critter Stack, which we're calling the Critter Stack because they've got all special names and such. But basically, Wolverine was the first sort of major foray into this. Martin was another example of what was part of this stack. But if you're utilizing this for your servers, your services rather, for your .NET endpoints, etc., there's a lot on the table that's coming. So Wolverine 3.0 integration with RavenDB. There's a feature called Critter Watch, an ongoing effort to build out a management and monitoring console application for any combination of Martin, Wolverine, and future critters. Martin 8.0, Wolverine 4.0, Ermine, I don't know what that is, a port of Martin's event store capabilities. And then if Ermine goes halfway well, I'd love to attempt a Cosmos DB and maybe a DynamoDB backend store in 2025. So lots of stuff coming from Jeremy D. Miller and friends. And, this is really, this is something that's actually gotten a lot of traction in the backend, .NET backend developer space, folks who are building out services, scalable services, eventing, etc.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of Ermine either. That's a new one for me. Actually, a lot of these are new to me. Yeah, I don't know what that is. I haven't used these myself, but I like the critter take on it, coming from a very rural area.
They're basically frameworks for the server side. So if you're a backend developer for .NET and you're looking to do integration with databases, eventing, standing up services, etc., this is stuff that can help.
Yeah, good stuff to watch. We have some more developer tool info with GitHub Models, a new generation of building AI engineer building on GitHub.
Yeah, this came out 4 hours ago. I woke up this morning, and checked my news, and this was on my feed reader. So
I love that you have a startup noise.
I know. Well, it's like I got up in the morning, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. It's that old song. So GitHub Models is just announced by GitHub. You'll find it alongside, actions, apps, etc. Now there's a place for models, and it will allow you to swap out very popular models going forward for use in integration with GitHub Copilot.
So I can add AI engineer to my resume now.
That's right. So there's lots of models out there. Obviously, the video talks a little bit about this, but essentially you can swap these out and utilize these now going forward as part of a integrated sort of playground environment now. So there's a brief couple of YouTube videos that are available, gives a synopsis of this, but a lot of people are talking very very positively about some of the models that are coming from Meta. Some people are saying that Meta is doing a great job there. So being able to integrate these and use them in the context of GitHub products like Copilot, for example, or GitHub proper will be something that will be interesting to see going forward.
Nice. Compare different models.
The amount of money that Microsoft is putting into AI is bonkers. I don't know if you saw their earnings statement.
They are all in on AI.
They are spending. Sure. I saw I was perusing through their earnings, which was released I think last week or earlier this week, and they're spending I believe $19 billion a quarter on AI. So they're making 22 billion, I think, or something like that for AI products. But I'd have to look at the numbers again. The amount of the CapEx cost on buying cloud infra for supporting AI is bananas.
Yeah.
From a Microsoft, they are all in on this. You know, when they said they were all in on Bing, they weren't really all in on Bing. They are all in on AI, believe me. So,
yeah,
there was a good take. There was a good take on this by Richard Campbell and Paul Thurrott on Windows Weekly, which is another show I highly recommend. They talked a lot about this as well. The amount of money that they're spending on AI is insane. But you know, we're going to be the benefactors, I think, of that going forward. So it's going to be great to see.
Yeah, it's really been an interesting thing to watch. I've been talking about AI since like 2016, 2017, and it kind of has been a fringe subject. And then all of a sudden 2023, 2024 comes and everybody's spending money on AI and building AI, and
this is why Nvidia's stock is so high.
Oh my gosh, it's astronomical right now. It's ridiculous. Wish I would have bought some of that a couple of years ago. Definitely missed the boat on that one. So more tooling to talk about. This isn't so much a Visual Studio Code update, although there is a new version 1.92 updated with new features and fixes for July, it says. But this is a brand new website. So Visual Studio Code website got a makeover. So it's kind of get a marketing revamp here.
Nice.
It's one of the most popular IDEs I think that's out there.
I would argue it's the most popular IDE now.
Probably.
Yeah,
and it's free to use, so
yeah,
it's got that going for it as well.
Yes.
Of course, there are paid, plugins and things that Microsoft has finally released for it, but for the most part, it's 100% free to use. So very well integrated with a bunch of parts of the ecosystem. We can
take free a look up
at
until
what's
a point
new here as
well.
Let's
make sure we get that right. So if you're utilizing C#, etc., there's that extension, the dev extension that you have to have an MSDN subscription, etc., etc.
Yeah, but I mean that's the only one. I mean, if you're doing JavaScript front end stuff, I don't think there's anything that's paid that's Microsoft owned. Maybe some GitHub integration. So if you have like GitHub Copilot, I mean that's an upsell that integrates into Visual Studio, but it's kind of an indirect thing. It's not required to use Visual Studio, so I don't really think of it that way. But it looks like there's been accessibility improvements, some add-ons to the workbench, so you can lay out your paneling. Profile editor preview. What is a profile editor preview? I'm not familiar with that one.
I always skip this section. I go right down to the preview features or proposed APIs section on the right-hand side because I like to see what's coming from a roadmap perspective. This stuff is like, I got it.
I wasn't aware this was a thing, the profiles. I think we might have talked about this a long time ago, but you can set up different work profiles. So you're like a full stack dev, or maybe you're doing different languages or something like that. You can
I don't know what developer runs in light mode, to be honest. I don't know if you do, but my God.
I do.
Light mode? No,
I have to. So I realized as I become a programmer of a certain age, the dark mode was causing much unneeded eye strain. As much as I felt like it was more comfortable,
Wait. Dark mode was causing eye strain? Okay.
Yeah. It sucks. I actually like dark mode better. I prefer it, but my eyes are like, no, this is not more comfortable. Just think it is. And by the end of the day, your eyes are going to be blurry if you put on dark mode. So I had to switch to light mode, and that went away. So yeah, I have good vision. It doesn't I can read just fine. I don't need glasses.
You can bake. You can bake cookies on broil as well, Ed, but it's not the right way to bake cookies, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you got to listen to your body, man. When it starts telling you, when you're doing this at the end of the day, you can't read anything 2 inches in front of your face.
I think it's the contrast that's probably freaking out your eyes. You could probably just go for a lighter contrast.
It is. Yeah, it's something to do with the contrast. It makes your eyes focus harder on the white on a dark background makes you focus harder, I think. So it was wearing out my eye muscles. They was
can't
getting
do
tired.
it. I'm sorry, I can't, dude. You're showing dark mode for the site, and we've got this is the thing that's tough about screenshots. Somebody, the website developers out there, when you take a screenshot, you're like, do I go light or dark? You know, on this because it's permanently baked in.
You can't see my taskbar, but my machine is set up for dark mode. But if it's something that I'm spending long periods of time staring at, like code, email, I switch over to light mode because I can't sit and look at it for long periods of time. The rest of the OS,
you're just not a developer, then, Ed. Sorry.
The browser, Chrome, the taskbar, those sort of things are okay in dark mode. But if it's in the main line of sight for me, it strains my eyes out. Freaks my eyes out. They get blurry.
Go down to preview features. I haven't seen this page yet. I want to see what they've got for what's coming up. Yeah, there. Preview features. True inline diffs.
Inline diffs.
Ooh, interesting. Right. Okay. So it's becoming more like Dev Express. VS Code native IntelliSense for PowerShell. Okay, that's cool. Shout out to all the PowerShell junkies out there.
I use PowerShell most of the time, not for like full editing, but as my
PowerShell is the Mac OS of shell scripts. I think it's like the nicest experience, whereas Bash is like the Linux of shell environments. I think it's just like you can do everything, but you got to do it yourself. So
configure enter behavior. These can be nuances in Visual Studio as well. Like what do we do on space? What do we do on enter? Auto completion, all of that stuff. Built-in terminal completions in PowerShell. Nice. Gonna love that. Like IntelliSense almost in PowerShell.
Yeah, this is just all integrated.
Very good.
Proposed testing enhancements.
Proposed APIs.
Yeah, nothing big. Nothing big.
Speaking of APIs,
here we go.
How many APIs does .NET have, John?
Stop me if you've heard this. You know. Oh, that's a really cool post. This was something that I've always wondered about, like how many APIs are there? You get those posters from the Microsoft marketing team from time to time. They lay out the entire universe of .NET. I haven't seen one of those in quite a while. I'd like to see them bring those back, by the way. Shout out to the folks who did those back in the day. But this is a post where, they iterate through all the APIs that are out there. And the numbers are quite impressive.
120,000, which is more than
the table at the bottom summarizes it. So
table at the bottom. Let's see what we got at the bottom.
There you go. It's a .NET version.
So it increased over time because this was 3 to 6 was kind of that transition period of we rewrote .NET and then we're like bringing things over from .NET full framework.
Yes.
And then we left behind all the stuff we didn't need, and we're slowly adding things that might be helpful.
My guess is Maui is like a good chunk of those. Maui, what else would there be? I don't know if it's just .NET proper, like .NET Core only, or if it includes all the sub-libraries that are out there, like, is it Entity Framework? Is it other libraries that are out there, sort of thing, so... Yeah. But Maui would definitely eat up a good amount of that.
Yeah, I'd say a lot. Well, that's probably the Maui release right there. So there's 1,000 difference between those two releases. This is such a small number, though. It's surprising. Like, this is, I guess, that initial push to convert things. We left a lot of stuff in the dust and people were not happy.
Well, who cares?
Like that was that area where like you're migrating, you're like, yeah, my app won't work. And that was the growing pains. I picked this one up off of LogRocket's blog. I'm not doing a lot of CSS, not doing a lot of JavaScript and TypeScript these days, but I know ESLint is super helpful with
it can be. Yep. It can be super annoying as well sometimes.
It can be, but that's what it's supposed to do, right? The point? I think the point is it's like a nag thing. So this helps you like, to make the TLDR version of it.
what a
With a
linter is.
compiled language, like a typed language like C#, you get a lot of these warnings and errors as part of the parser and compiler. Since JavaScript doesn't have a compiler, you can set up rules around how you want your JavaScript structured, and ESLint helps enforce those policies. So this is a nice article about why you might want to adopt it and how to set it up. And it's just a good reminder if you're not using it, or you're first learning about it, or you haven't used it in a bit, to circle back and set up your linter if
super easy to do.
Help you.
Super easy to do. The general gist of download it via npm, integrate it as part of a build or build process that you kick off, which you can set up through a task inside of VS Code, or if you're running some other tool, you can have it automated. So for every save, you can have it fire off, and it will give you just a list of warnings underneath in your errors if you will, errors and warnings
Yeah,
very easy to set up.
Like for example, if there's a new keyword that comes up for JavaScript that's more useful, like let versus var versus whatever, maybe you want to enforce that you don't use var anymore. You want like let to be the default way to do things. You can enforce that if somebody types in var instead of using let, it throws a warning or an error.
Yeah.
And you get IntelliSense inside of Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code that warns you of whatever's happening. So it's a very helpful tool.
My favorite feature of ESLint is the extensions. So there's a bunch of extensions. There's a whole ecosystem of extensions around ESLint for things like internationalization, globalization, other things as well. And so you can plug these in and have them do additional capabilities around things like, hey, you've got a naked string here. You should probably put that into a resource file, or hey, this is a timestamp or something like that, and you should probably format that.
Yeah, this is a pretty lengthy article too. It looks like they even go into comparing it to different version linting software that's out there.
Yeah. And you can use this with Prettier. You can use this with other linter tools if you want. You can have a bunch of these running at the same time. So
yep, I just thought it was a good read and a good reminder to work on best practices with your code.
Nice.
Speaking of best practices, I didn't even realize I did that. Windows security best practices for integrating and managing security tools.
Yeah. So this is a post by David Weston. He also made a post up on the official Microsoft blog. This is basically a summary of what happened as part of the CrowdStrike outage. So this is Microsoft's sort of response, as well as what they're going to be doing going forward. They've reiterated what everyone has seen out there. They provide basically a dump of what you would see, the reasons why it failed, which we've covered. I've talked about this on other shows as well. Basically, it was an invalid configuration file that was full of null, and they didn't do an error check against that. A lot of people have asked the question, like, why is it that security vendors need to continue to operate in this way, meaning they have to work at the kernel level, and shouldn't there be an API set? And so Microsoft's working on this. I mean, Microsoft is I think somewhere in the post here it says that we're going to be working closely with CrowdStrike to make sure that they're doing right by the APIs that we provide. There's a whole bunch of initiatives that they've kicked off. Basically, the summary of this is like, we need to do better in terms of this so that this sort of thing doesn't happen again. And so this is a long, detailed blog post about all the things that are there. But it does go into the specifics around, what drivers are, how they operate, the levels of loading in which they occur in the operating system, and why they exist the way they do, but also in terms of like, what's coming. And so, Microsoft has a vested interest in this. Obviously, they don't want Windows going down like this. It's a bad look for Microsoft. So
yeah,
they're going to work on this. They do, interestingly, David does talk a little bit at the end how Microsoft is pushing towards supporting Rust in the Windows kernel, which is now there. And so they've announced support to this. I don't know if Rust, some people would argue that Rust would have mitigated against this, and probably so. Rust is very type safe and will nag you. You think ESLint is bad? Wait till you use Rust. It nags you like crazy. But I think that all in all, I think, we have to go through sometimes painful things like this in order to figure out, okay, clearly this is not working. We need to do this better. And so this is, the sort of official response from Microsoft, which is good to see.
Joe of InfoSec, I think Joe of Sec is asking where the links are. We can post those. I need to get better at doing that. I will post them on a Facebook link and share that on my Twitter after the show today. Thanks for reminding me to do that.
You could just Google Microsoft CrowdStrike.
Yeah, if there's a particular
there. Yeah.
If there's a particular link you'd like now, I'll post this one that I'm sharing right now. But if you want to see any more of those, I'll just try to make a habit of sharing them, and then we'll post a follow up on my Facebook page. Or I say Facebook, I meant LinkedIn. My LinkedIn page.
You're still gonna use your GeoCities account there while you're at it?
I know, right? We have an old timer section today at the end of the show, so you can make all the old fart jokes that you want.
You can tell me on my CompuServe email address. Thank you very much, Ed. Appreciate it.
No joke. I used to work for and this was not long ago. This was like 10 years ago. I used to work for a company that decided it wanted to be in cybersecurity and hired a CEO that was still using a AOL email and refused to use company email. And I was like, and you hired him as CEO of cybersecurity startup?
Hey.
Why? I searched for another job immediately.
Nice.
All right. Talking a little bit about AI, I saw this come across the Twitters. There was a research paper written on the continual learning of generative AI. So the gist of it, the TLDR that I grasped from this was, so, you've got all these Gen AI things popping up, right? So they're supposed to get smarter over time, as machine learning does. However, the Gen AI stuff is generating the next generation of inputs. So just kind of think of it a little bit theoretical. Say I've got my blog and I'm generating stuff using Gen AI and I'm posting it on my blog, and then the service comes behind, sweeps it back up and re-ingests that and trains on it, and it starts kind of cannibalizing itself, and it starts making the AI really stupid and it collapses. So it's kind of like the mad cow disease of AI. Like, you don't feed the cows themselves because bad things happen. Is that a bad analogy? I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's the first thing that came to mind.
We're live, folks. Come on. We're trying to make this up as we go. You're listening to two idiots. Come on.
That's what I grasped from it. Like, your generative AI is like reconsuming data that has been generated by Gen AI.
I think our analogy model just collapsed with that one, Ed.
Could have been, but it's a bad thing. So
yeah,
that's what this was about.
Not unsurprising. These models are not perfect. That's why they're constantly new models are coming out, right? So I think we're going to be on this train for a long time. So I can't wait till GPT-20. This is like, models are now the new iPhone models, right? You're going to see I'm using GPT-5. I'm using GPT-8, oh, don't talk to that guy. He's using GPT-4. What a Luddite, sort of thing. So we're going to be on this. We're going to be on this train for a long time, I think.
Yeah, you can see the degradation of the generations of the AI here as well. It's like it just keeps getting dumbed down. So that was an interesting one. There is a big paper on this one. It is a PDF file.
There you go.
Let's see. I don't know if this link will translate properly, but we'll try it. That was the link to that, and it's a big PDF. So if you want to read that, you're more than welcome. You may come to a better conclusion than I did, but that was my take on it. I kind of just glanced over things. And then speaking of AI, you're saying
yes.
Meta has been doing good things.
Yes.
they launched Meet Llama 3.1. This is a new version of their AI model. I have heard good things as well about the developer experience here, and that it is open. It's easy to try and use. So it's got very similar capabilities to other things that you've seen out there, where you can generate text and images and other things from their generative AI, coding assistance, all of those things. The documentation's supposed to be pretty good as well. They've got GitHub examples and things like that. So give that a try, kick the tires, see what you think.
I can't wait till Facebook uses this with the metaverse. See what happens.
Mm-hmm. They already are. We talked about that last week, sir. That is now a feature
you know what I mean.
of version
we just
68.
talked about AI models collapsing, so
yeah.
We'll see what happens.
It's part of the Oculus Horizon OS version 68.
Is it me, or is Zuckerberg looking more and more like surfer boy these days?
Oh yeah, he's gone full boy band. That's been a meme for the last couple months.
He's gotten away from his one shirt, one pair of pants sort of wardrobe, and it looks like he's branching out. And he's now wearing a gold chain, apparently. That could be an AI device. By the way, I don't know if you saw that AI device called Friend. Oh, my goodness. Ugh. So if you go to friend.com.
Oh, I heard about this one.
Oh, God. This is the saddest thing I think I've seen for a while. So what this is, it's a device you wear around your neck, and it talks to you, and it sends you text messages. This is like the movie Her, where
God.
It's talking to you like, like you're like in the videos that they show. It's like, how's the thing asks you, how's the falafel, and it shows a woman sitting down eating a falafel, and she's like, it's good, and then she drips sauce on it, and she's like, oh, sorry about that, and then it replies with a text message. It says, yum. It's like, this is so sad, like that we're going to this point where this is just play a sport. You'll make tons of friends there. Like you don't need a robotic friend. But
spoiler alert. There's a really great show by the actor Hank Azaria.
Yes, he played Mo. Yes.
Yeah, he plays
Sislak.
That's like one of many things he does on The Simpsons.
Many voices, yes.
And he's been in a lot of great movies and things, but he has a TV show. It's very NSFW, so we won't go into too much detail about it. Where's the name of it? I'm trying to remember the name of this show. TV shows. Let's see if I can find it. But there's the last season of the show. They get a device like this. Brockmire. There it is. So if you like Hank Azaria and offbeat adult themed comedy, check out Brockmire. The tech stuff at the last season, it like skips into the future, and they've all got their it's like a little lapel pin. It's called the Lemon. It's exactly this friend thing that you just showed me. It's very brutally honest about technology.
I feel like holding up that clock. It's time to stop. It's time to stop. What are we doing?
Speaking of stop, what are we doing? There's a patent that some people were reporting on in the XR space that Microsoft filed that they're thinking might be the next AR smart glasses.
Okay.
Similar to like what Meta's doing with the Ray-Ban acquisitions. Okay. Or they didn't acquire Ray-Ban, but they acquired a glasses company to help with their Ray-Ban integration. So there's something in this patent that's talking about using AI and XR together. I think there's a lot of promise here if they decide to do something like that for accessibility and describing the world around you to somebody that is visually limited. I think
absolutely
is an awesome idea.
No disagreement there. However, for Ed Charbeneau from USA, who is playing games and perfectly able to go outside and enjoy reality and doesn't run dark mode. Sorry.
It doesn't run. Keep making fun of my disability.
I will.
To use dark
You've
mode.
You've given me a little bit of information to use against you now. So, is this too bright for you? Sorry.
I'm calling HR.
Yes, you hurt my feelings.
He made fun of my dark mode, light mode capabilities. But I hope they come out with something. It'd be nice to see some more competition in that market. And while we're talking about hardware, this one I can't figure out for the life of me. I've seen it going across
what is this?
The wire a few times this week, and I keep trying to not click on it and read about it, but it just keeps coming up. And I don't know where this came out of, but I guess the CEO of Logitech wants to do something more sustainable, and I don't know if they want to do something more sustainable for the environment or their pocket, but they've got this concept of, you've heard of the Forever House. This is the Forever Mouse. They want to build a mouse that they don't have to sell again. So, you buy it once and it works forever. And it doesn't wear out, and that's going to be sustainable because
good luck. It's not.
You don't have to throw it away.
No,
and that's great. Even if you could do it, make it out of die-cast aluminum or whatever, and give it internals.
Will still break.
That's not the problem.
Give it to my son. He'll break it within 3 months. He breaks everything. My sons break everything.
You ready for the plot twist here?
Okay, sure.
So if you scroll through this enough and you read between the lines. There. I guess you don't have to read far between the lines. It's in the headline.
Yes, of course.
You're going to have to subscribe to your mouse?
Of course.
Are you serious? Now I have to have a subscription to use my mouse. How is... No, I'm not doing it.
This will never work.
I'm sorry.
This will never work. The genie's out of the bottle. This is not how hardware is sold today. It will never be sold this way. No one will ever subscribe to a mouse. I'm sorry for driver.
The only way I could see this working is if they put aim assist hacks for competitive shooter games.
Companies do this today. Companies do this today, and it's free. What is this guy talking about?
I don't know. I don't get this. I don't get it.
What is there to get? The mouse will break. It's physical. Everything, entropy takes over. Everything breaks. Everything.
Yeah, especially with buttons, right? I mean, my keyboard, I can switch the buttons out on if they break individually, which is nice. So I'll probably have this keyboard for a really long time.
He compares it to the iPhone upgrade program.
I took a broken switch out the other day. They're hot swappable switches, which I found out, even though they're hot swappable, I had to reboot my keyboard afterwards. But anyway, yeah, that's an awesome take on it. You should be able to pay extra to skip the updates or an ad.
Yes.
I think you should be able to pay to skip updates. I thought that's where you're going with that.
This will never, ever happen. This will never
I don't know how many times Logitech has shipped an update that's made my experience worse. I wish I could have paid to skip those.
Well, Ed, someone's got to pay for those 3D modeled device driver settings, So
maybe that's what CrowdStrike should have done. If you pay the subscription, you can roll back the update. So too much too soon?
Yeah, a little bit, but no one's gonna pay. No one's gonna pay. That is a ridiculous idea. I'm sure he made it in passing on stage somewhere, and some journalist caught it and said, "Oh, this is the future." I'm like, no, that's not what's gonna happen.
I wish I had a stinger to transition us into this segment of the show, but basically we have a collection of old man.
Needs one. Yeah.
We have a collection of old man articles coming up, and the first one is Back to Basic, and the title is the most consequential programming language in the history of computing, and I like this article.
Controversial.
I read through it. It makes some great points. It's talking about where the state of programming languages was when it was released.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't great. You had a lot of, there wasn't a lot of abstraction there. So you were writing a lot of, machine code, stuff like that.
There was once you started using go-tos.
Yeah. That's talked about in
really
here as well.
complicated.
So, basically it starts off with it was hard to write code. Basic came along, made it a little more human readable. It was a little clunky at first. Then they started adding instructions to it that made it a little more human readable even more.
There it is.
And then
infamously, the
go-to. It came with foot guns like go-to.
Sure.
Which I had to explain that to someone not that long ago. They said, "What is a foot gun?" It's like something that gives you the capability to shoot yourself in the foot very easy, but by accident. So that was introduced into Go. So it lets you write spaghetti code, and this is something that a lot of first-time programmers cut their teeth on.
I know. I'll put it out there. I don't need BASIC to write spaghetti code. I'm very good at writing spaghetti code without BASIC. Thank you very much. So
yeah. So this was the pun intended go-to language for a lot of folks our age, right?
Wow.
Because this is what you started on. This is they introduced you to this model in grade school. Maybe you're a little bit older. This was something you had on your first computer that you owned in your home or office. But 40 years later, you could still probably write some BASIC, couldn't you? I have a feeling in 40 years from now, this same article is going to be written about JavaScript. You think that's fair?
I hope not. I hope we're well beyond JavaScript by then.
No, that's what I'm saying. We're well beyond BASIC, I think, right? That's going to be like, this is your boomer coding language, I think, by the time.
Do you know how much Fortran is still out there?
Yeah. I mean, I realize it's still powering things, but I think JavaScript will do that as well.
I think I read somewhere that the nukes that, the missile silos that operate our nukes and stuff in the US are still running on big floppy disks and such. So this stuff does not go away.
Speaking of, there's no mystery over who wrote the blue screen of death. So
yeah, I saw this. Raymond Chen's awesome. So Raymond Chen does these like archaeological digs into the history of Microsoft, and he does these great posts where he's like, you know what? I don't think anyone's ever talked about this. So interestingly about this, the Windows blue screen is well known, and not incidentally, recently became a very hot topic. But Raymond talks a little bit about, who went about writing this. And it turns out that Windows 3.1, the message, not the program to write it, but was actually written by Steve Ballmer. So Steve Ballmer was the author of the words that you saw in the 3.1 blue screen of death. Raymond goes on to say that he wrote the messages after there. John Vert was part of this as well. These are popular, well-known developers at Microsoft, but this goes into history.
Steve Ballmer made it. CrowdStrike made it famous.
I think it was dude. I don't think anyone needs to make the blue screen of death famous. It was famous well before that. So
they wore it best. Sorry, CrowdStrike. First appearance in Windows 3.1. I've been there.
Yeah, the text for this was written by Steve Ballmer. So there you go. That's cool. Little interesting tidbit there.
My first Windows 3.1 computer. My 386 SX. That SX stands for sucks, by the way.
Yes. So this is the Windows 95.
No joke.
So this is the Windows 95 blue screen of death. And I think Raymond said that he was the one that brought forward sort of the idea of putting memory addresses to help debug, which was a smart idea in my opinion.
I love Control-Alt-Delete used to be so nuclear back then.
Sure.
Like you could just hit it and no questions asked, your computer just reboot. And I remember
release the missiles, fire.
We were in computer class in high school, and we were supposed to do presentations on an overhead projector. And my teacher had one of those LCD monochrome screens that would overlay on an overhead projector.
Nice.
And it would cast it up on the wall. and the kid's up there, and he's like, he tells the kid to do X, Y, and Z on the computer, and he types it in, and he goes, "Now save the file." And the kid looks over at me at my desk, and he kind of mouths, "How do you save?" And I whispered back, "Control Alt Delete." And we watched the reboot screen come up, and everybody was floored laughing, except for him, of course.
Yes.
But listen in class. That's the takeaway.
My favorite now. So this blue screen you see, just this last one here, is the one that's on NT. That one is burned into my brain because that one was awesome. And it would give awesome details. Yes, we all remember the turbo button. Yes, it did
Gotta
nothing.
have the dump.
So,
yeah.
33, 66, 33, 66. My favorite blue screen of all time was at Comdex 98. So Bill Gates was up on stage talking about Windows 98. I realize this is dating me now.
Yeah,
and,
I remember this happening.
Chris Capacera, I'm trying to remember his last name. Anyways, this guy is up on stage and showing a bunch of hardware devices and talking about plug and play. And he lifts the lid of the scanner, and the whole thing just blue screens, and the whole crowd just loses their mind and starts laughing. And Bill Gates has got nothing. He's like, I guess that's why we're not shipping Windows 98 yet. I met that guy. at a build event, like I think build whatever, and I said, dude, you totally hung in there. Like, congratulate. Like, you can only imagine the worst demo to have is like you got the CEO of Microsoft up on stage with you. You're doing the demo, and in those instances, there's not a lot of backup. You're talking hardware. You can't just like roll out a new scanner because it's obviously bad. But they just move right past that. But that was my favorite. You can still watch that video today. It's actually a really good video. So, because he lifts the lid, he's like, you'll notice in this scanner, I even remember what he said. You'll notice in this scanner bin, he goes, whoa. And then it goes blue screen. And he does the little flick of the KVM hardware underneath the desk to switch it over to the good machine. And everyone's just laughing. And credit. Demos are hard, especially in front of thousands of people. But that's my favorite memory.
Yeah. So I actually found the video. Here it is. No, this is a more modern example of what happened.
Oh, yeah. It's unbreakable. That's right.
The unbreakable glass of the Tesla truck is right up there in the same regard as the blue screen of death demo.
I like how they looked at it and they were laughing. Like, it was like, really? This thing's broken? Oh, I guess we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, and he's like, try it again. It breaks again.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I, not to go on too much of a tangent with Tesla stuff because it's annoying. I talked to a friend of mine that is a firefighter immediately after that, and he's like, "Good God, please don't do this, because if we ever need to get you out of this truck in an accident, especially if it's in water, you are doomed. Yeah. Like, you are going to drown in this thing. We are never getting you out of there." Right. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, you don't do that to your car. Last article here is a nice shameless plug for Telerik.com. Catherine, one of my coworkers here, wrote a fantastic article called "Closing the Designer Developer Gap." And in this article, she goes through some of the main points of communicating with the developers and designers in that process. So, number one, developers want to be involved with the design process. Maybe not all of them, but I think most of them want to at least understand why they're doing something rather than just be handed a pretty picture and it is like, here, do this, make it look pixel perfect. And they don't quite understand all the whys, the important decisions that went into making the design, the user experience, the accessibility, all of that. I think being part of that process is very important. Developers want to share the same language with designers. Like, we want to be able to communicate with one another and not look at each other like you're speaking a foreign language and we don't understand you. Developers want to reduce mid-project changes as much as possible. I think that goes, very well with the developer mindset. Like, we don't like scope creep. especially when we're trying to match a design with the code that we're writing. Developers value designers and want to have more designers on their teams. You hear that, folks? You guys should like each other. Play nice together. I've never met somebody who's like, "Ugh, these designers, like they're not my friends." You know, it's nice to have good-looking software and people that know how to build good user experiences and communicate those with you and help you build a good product. So what we're doing in regards to all of this is looking to create like one of those state of type of surveys. And if this is something that you want to be part of, you can jump to the link. Did I share that in chat? There's a lot of chat going on. Thindle making some comments on testers there. But if you want to be part of the survey, just click on the link, scroll to the bottom, fill out the survey, and we will look through all of those results and find where the communication and gap is, and look for ways to close it.
I have a small request.
Yes, sir.
Designers, where's the camera? Designers, all right, please test for scalability. What I mean to say is, when I often get a design from designers, God bless them, love the design, totally understand what you're trying to go here, love your color palette, everything looks awesome. Don't give me, and then there's a table in here that has 3 rows in it. Test it for millions and millions of rows, right? Because we're going to plug the data into this thing, and then suddenly it's going to grow, and you're like, eh? So always assume, text that's too long, rows with too many rows, or tons and tons and tons of data. Like, I think developers, that's what they get irked by. Like, when we put this thing into production, meaning we back end this with some data, this isn't going to scale, right? Like, this is not like, and some people would say, well, what about table paging? And like, yeah, all that stuff. But what I mean by that is, when the design is written, they're assuming Ed Charbeneau, simple first name, simple last name. Oh, really? Yeah. Have you tried a really long last surname with hyphens and all that? Or, without truncating or collapsing the string? Have you tried data that's super long email addresses? Like, it's going to word wrap. It's going to mess up your entire design. So designers, please think of scaling your UI. Please don't just give us a lorem ipsum text sort of blob and assume everything's going to look awesome, right?
Yeah.
Assume a design that's going to flow, flex blocks, for example, using different types of data, etc. And developers, you can help designers. You can give them a data generation tool to propagate into their UI and see how is this going to look.
Yeah, I used to do that type of work. I used to put on the UX hat sometimes. Yep. And, I was a big fan of real-time wireframes. Like, I know there's Figma and all of that, and you can build things out, make them clickable. But more to your point, John, I liked working with a real application that hadn't been styled yet, but maybe wasn't fully feature complete. So you'd build in some basic functionality, maybe with some mocks, and send those mocks to the front end and render those out to kind of flush out some of these issues first before you go full in on a design. And there was a nice project for ASP.NET.
Oh yeah, Genfu.
Or .NET called Genfu that some nice Canadian folks put together.
Hey, come on, we're all right.
The .NET monsters. So 3 .NET developers, they put this together, and it would basically do basically does, it's still out there, you can still use it. It does what's it called? It inspects the names of the properties. What's the name of this feature I'm trying to get out of my head, John? Where you're inspecting the metadata off of the reflection. does reflection. I kept thinking recursion. It's reflection. So it does reflection. It looks at things, and not only does it get like the names, but it does the types as well. And if it sees something like, oh, it's an integer and it's an age, I'm going to give you numbers that make sense for an age.
Or how about a negative number?
Yeah, I'm going to give, it won't do that. So if it's age, it won't give you a negative number. And it's got like these smart generators that it has in it, but you can plug in custom ones as well. So I wrote some web-based generators for it and submitted those a pull request on this one. Is their website still up? It is not. Oh, womp womp. This hasn't been updated in a little while. You can see it's about 11 years old. It hasn't been updated in about 2 years. So there was a set of HTML helpers that would build wireframes as well. And this would help you flush out things. So you could just go into a Razor and say, at HTML, give me a paragraph with some words in it. And you could specify how many words, and it would build that out for you. And you could plug types into it, and it would make smart decisions on maybe a table of data or something like that in a web page. And do that through ASP.NET MVC. So that was a fun project, but it lets you build things out, storyboard, wireframe, all of that very, very quickly. And I used to argue that I could code demos up faster than somebody could physically draw a wireframe because of this thing.
Oh, come on.
And I could. I used to talk about it. Used to do a really good session on it. And then Figma came out and everybody's like, we're doing this. Yeah. Which Figma's great. But like I said, you want to be able to plug data into those things, which I'm sure there's plugins for in Figma as well. There's probably ways to pull data into that and make it look more realistic and more interactive. I need to learn more about Figma. I hear wonderful, wonderful things about it. And
it's a good tool.
It's good. Yeah, I haven't been able to kick the tires on it too much yet. I was playing with it the other day, but I don't know what I'm doing in there, to be honest.
So, I don't know what I'm doing in general. So that makes two of us.
But speaking of making that two of us, no, I'm done with the segues. I didn't have one, so I was trying and I failed. That's all we have. That's what I was going to say.
Very good.
That's all we have. I will try to post these links on my LinkedIn page as a newsletter. I need to get back to doing that. I was actually thinking that before the show, and then chat helped remind me of that. So I will go do that now.
If you guys want to watch a good video, go Google search Comdex 98 Blue Screen of Death. So it's an awesome video.
Yes. Remember the good old days of Windows 90s, the ME, Windows ME.
Comdex was.
We want to talk about blue screens of death. Windows ME was a blue screen of death generation machine. Like it was the Chat GPT of blue screens.
Awesome.
Like that is what Windows ME is. If you lived through it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It was the worst Windows operating system to date. Forever and always will be. All right. That's all I've got, John. Take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.